Good morning and welcome to today's Business Spotlight, where we are joined by Andrea Hughes of Hunter Hughes Ltd. Good morning, Andrea. How are you?
Well, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I dive straight in and don't hang around. So please, may I ask, tell us what you do and how long you've been doing it for.
Okay, I run a recruitment business, mostly sales recruitment, but we do engineering and operations roles and marketing as well sometimes. I've been running Hunter Hughes for 11 years now. I've been in recruitment for, God, nearly 25 years, I think. So I work for a big sales recruitment company, BMS, and I realised when I was pregnant that I couldn't carry on working the amount of hours and put the commitments into that job, really, and be a mum, because it just didn't work, because I sat across from a woman who was always forgetting that there was a harvest festival or there was a meeting at the school, and she was really stressed, and I just thought, this isn't going to work. So unfortunately, my husband also worked for the same company, so we had to have quite a strong conversation about perhaps he needed to look for another job, because I couldn't obviously compete directly with him, because that wouldn't have worked. So we had a bit of an exit plan, and it took a couple of years really for us to kind of make our exit. And I then, because I was working in their engineering division, there was no real compete clause that they could get me on. So I set up thinking that it was a massive decision, obviously, because we were earning good money. But I needed more flexibility around being a mum and being at the school gates, being able to pick up, being able to do everything that I wanted to do, because I probably was only going to have one. And I just wanted to make it really, really worthwhile and put the effort in there with my son. So I thought, okay, I've got to just bite the bullet. And it's a bit like standing on the edge of a freezing cold swimming pool. And it's going to be, you've just got to take the plunge. You've just got to big breath and do it. And I was just, within the first month, delighted at the decision that I'd made, because I made more money in my first month than I probably would have made in a quarter working for somebody else. So it was clear it was the right thing to do. I think you've got to be brave, and you've just got to really have faith in yourself. But if you're doing something that you can do, and it was a no-brainer, because I've been doing that job for probably about 15 years. So I knew what to do. I knew how to do it. I didn't know the accountancy side of running a business at all, and that was quite frightening, because I'm not a mathematician. But actually, that I proved that I wasn't as bad at that as I thought I was going to be, because it's very basic maths. And you just have to get a reasonable accountant that can talk you through it. And mine had the patience of a saint, because I was just tearing my hair out on the phone trying to do VAT returns. But a VAT return used to take me over a day, which drove me mad, because it took me away from selling and doing my job. But now it takes me about an hour, if that. So it's just, I think, really learning how to bring other people in and paying for the help and the expertise that you don't have. That's a really important thing.
Yeah, that's a great point to share, actually, because there's a couple of limiting beliefs that we have around starting a business, and one of those is, but I've never run a business before, or I don't know, I'm no good at maths.
Yeah.
And so surrounding
It's
yourself.
quite, a cash book is quite simple. At the time as well, I think you're really, really concerned about costs.
Okay.
So I had a little bit of help, because I piggybacked on somebody else's job board licenses for the first couple of months. He was an absolute superstar. What I did was I got in touch with as many people as I could before I made the decision, to find out how they'd done it and what they did and what they wouldn't do if they had their time again. So I made lots of calls and met lots of people, and really picked their brains and took some good gems away from them. And that really helped me, actually. So a lot of them said, don't bother hiring offices, don't rent an office. It's a huge overhead. You can do exactly this job from home, as I still do it now. And always be quite cautious about spending too much, and always try and keep as much money in the business account as you can as a cushion. Fantastic advice, that, because that's what saved us during COVID, was the fact that I had a cushion where I could still pay my bills, even though there was nothing coming in for 3 months. It was quite scary. Because I've been really cautious. It's a little bit like running a house in a way. You've got to make sure that you're careful, and it's exactly the same as personal finances. Business finances aren't that much different. And that's the way I've always done it. I mean, this isn't like a multi-million-pound turnover company, it isn't, but it's given me the flexibility and an income that I would not have achieved working for somebody else. Never, no chance. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I haven't particularly enjoyed the last few years because of all the things that have happened, and it's been tough. It's really tested me. But the other thing, I think, if you're running your own business, is it's got to be something you're passionate about. So I've always thought I'd love to run a restaurant, but my dad said, ridiculous. You don't know the first thing about running a kitchen, apart from the fact that you like cooking. The overheads, and if you listen to people like Gordon Ramsay, and they always say the same thing. Why do people always think they can run a restaurant when they haven't had any kind of catering background? And it is true. If you don't know what you're doing, the risk is far, far greater. If you know what that job is inside out, because you've been doing it for somebody else and you can see a way of doing it for yourself, then the risk is really minimal, because you've been doing it. I've been doing it for 15 years, and I knew what I was doing, and I knew how to approach new customers. I knew how to sell, because I've been in sales before that anyway, and I knew all of the subtleties of how to recruit and what makes a good match. So that gave me the confidence that I needed to do it for myself.
I wonder if people think that it's got to be something really big or really new or really innovative that's completely different, not in their wheelhouse at all, and maybe that's where it might sort of trip them up. You said something brilliant earlier, and I just want to ask. You said that you asked those around you what wouldn't they do if they had their time again. What wouldn't you do if you had your time again, Andrea?
I wouldn't be as I wouldn't be as patient. Well, not patient, that's the wrong word, but I wouldn't be as kind, I think, as I've been to the people that I've worked with. That sounds awful, but I think I've limited the growth of my business by thinking about the impact it would have on others that work with me. So, for example, I started off, there were 3 of us, and it worked brilliantly. There was one person that did the business development, there was one person that did the candidate attraction, and there was me in the middle. And I fitted it all together, so it worked perfectly, and the cogs perfectly spun. The reason I didn't scale was because as soon as I tried to, the person that was doing the candidate attraction had a fit, was really, really angry, didn't like it, was really concerned about the impact it was going to have on her income. And instead of being quite hard-nosed about it and saying, well, that's what's happening, it's my business, I'm doing this, the only way we're going to scale is to get more people doing each of those jobs. And let's face it, there's more than enough business to go around more than 3 people. But because of my concern about how she would feel, I didn't. And now that's relationship, well, after 10 years of working together, because recruitment has changed dramatically over the last few years, she's gone anyway. And now I'm thinking, why did I let myself kind of be almost caged by somebody else's concern, because I was a bit too nice. And I think that's the thing. You've got to have a vision about what you want to do with your business. And regardless of everybody, being concerned about other people, it's great. And that's part of why people want to work with me, is because I'm really flexible around what they do and how they do it. They can work the hours that they want to work. I'm not bothered, as long as they're performing. They can have all the flexibility they want, because that's the reason I set the business up for myself. But at the same time, when I've spoken to a business coach recently, he was amazed at how kind of, well, generous, I suppose, in a way, and how the business has been set up. And he's just like, what you pay them on that, even though they haven't touched some of those jobs, you're still paying them commission. And the way I did it worked really well, but it's really stopped me from scaling, I think. So that's what I would do differently, I think. But, you know, and I possibly still can. There's probably still 10 years left in me.
Yes, yeah.
So, but it would have been quite nice to go and get offices and give more people an opportunity and run it in the way that BMS is run. But then I think you get the stress as well, because the beauty of the way I work is I don't have the overheads of an office. I don't have loads and loads of people on, you know, payroll, and therefore we've been quite streamlined and been able to ride those horrible years out after COVID and during COVID. And I think if I'd have had an office, I'd have had a lot more sleepless nights, and with more employees, I'd have probably had to make a lot of people redundant anyway, and that would have been pretty grim. So I think if I'm philosophical about it, if I look back over my career, it's not been that stressful in some ways, because I've been able to maneuver around the problems and still earn good money. And even when the turnover took a big drop because of the impact of COVID, as an individual, I probably didn't take that much of a hit, because it was, you know, we just didn't make as much profit. So yeah,
it was set up, yeah, so it paid dividends in the end. Andrea, tell me, what is it that Hunter Hughes does that makes you stand out in the industry?
I think our honesty, hugely. Recruitment as an industry has a reputation for being a little bit wide, a little bit, you know, you would say that, wouldn't you? It's not about the candidate, it's about the company's fee. And we're seen as a bit manipulative, and I hate it, because I'm not. And I think because I'd done 10 years in field sales before I even got into recruitment, and I got into recruitment almost accidentally, because I've been made redundant, and I was talking to an agency in Birmingham, and he said, go and see this guy in Coventry. He's really, really impressive. And I said, well, it's working in an office. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, I've been working all over Europe. I don't want to go and work in an office. I'm a field salesperson. I need to be in front of people. He said, well, you've got nothing to lose. Just go and have a chat. And I use that line a lot these days, because it changed my entire career. Because I met Ian Owen, and he was so inspirational. He was exactly 10 years older than me. And I was just inspired because he'd set this business up, and I thought, I can learn so much from you, and then I'll go and do the same, which is essentially what I did. I didn't expect to be with him and work for him for 15 years, kind of on and off. But that's exactly what I did. And I think the difference, because I thought, as a business, as Hunter Hughes, I want to do it differently, because when you work in a massive recruiter like BMS, it's a machine, right? And you tend to you look at the vacancies, and you've got hundreds of candidates, and you match, and if you can't find anybody for that vacancy, you move on to the next. And it's like a machine. It's almost like a production line. There isn't a huge amount of time spent with the candidates, so I think sometimes they feel like they're a bit of a number. And it's, you know, you can do a job well, and I believe I did do a job well for them, because I had a lot of empathy for the candidates, because I'd been one, because I'd been in their position. So that makes us quite different in a way. I think we're older as well, and we're more experienced, and a lot of people in recruitment are fresh out of uni or fresh out of college, and they've got very little empathy with the candidates because they've never been one. And that makes a big difference. So I come at it from, I do less volume, so there's fewer clients, there's fewer vacancies, which tends to make us not the right agency for some candidates. Because if you go to BMS as a salesperson, they have, or Michael Page for that matter, I don't want to do a massive advert for them, but they've got lots and lots of vacancies for you to pick and choose from. And they work in geographical areas. So if you're in Birmingham, all of those vacancies will be in the Midlands, and it's great because you've got lots of choice. But the downside is you won't get the same level of service, you don't get the same amount of time spent with you. So when a candidate comes to us because they've seen one of our adverts on LinkedIn, or they've heard about us, they have a very different experience. We spend a lot longer with them. We don't consider whether they can do a job or not. It's whether it makes sense for them to do it. Does the move make sense? Because don't move if there's no, if you're moving for a couple of £1,000, don't move. If you're moving into a bigger job, if it's improving your career and there's a pay rise, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be a pay rise, if the move makes sense, then make it. Don't make the move because that recruiter is going to make a fee. That's the thing. It's about the candidate, and that's why when we place people, our tenure in those jobs is longer than most recruiters can say, probably 50% longer. So the people that I'm placing are staying in their jobs for 3, 4, 5 years rather than 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Because it's a big move, it's an exciting move. If they're not really excited about that job, they're probably better off not taking it. And that's something I really push. Why would you make, and when I'm interviewing somebody, if they've made move after move after move, I've got to find out why. And I really try and make them think about what they enjoy and what they haven't enjoyed about their previous jobs, so they don't make another mistake. Because they keep making mistakes. So it's not just a transactional recruiter. We are very much looking at people's careers, helping them make decisions, really making them think about their moves, so that when they do make that move, it's a long-term career move rather than just another job. And the other thing is, I really try to be dead honest with both sides. So if the candidate's got 6 options that they're looking at, and that's been happening a lot recently because there's loads of jobs and not enough people, they are, if I don't trust them and I think they're being a bit slippery and they're not telling me the whole truth, I'll be honest with the client and say, I'm not sure about them. I don't know if we're going to get them or not. I think they've got lots of things going on. They're not really opening up and telling me the truth. I don't feel that from them. So beware, and you need to keep your options open. Don't just take that one person to final, because you might not get them. So it's about trying to be really open and honest with the candidates, give them decent feedback, help them with their career move rather than just banging them into interviews and making them feel like you don't care about them anyway, because actually I do. I've quite often told candidates, and this is a bit of a new one on most people, that if they've got 2 jobs that they're trying to choose between, and the other job, not through Hunter Hughes, is better for them, I'll tell them. And they're quite shocked by that, because most recruiters are pushing and prodding and manipulating and trying to get them to take their job. But if it's not the right job, they're not going to stay in it. So the client gets really annoyed as well. And yes, for the sake of that fee, that one-off fee, your long-term relationship with both sides is you're ruining it. And one story, I love this, a couple of, probably about 6 months ago, about 6 months ago, a lady phoned me up, hated her boss. He's driving everybody mad. People are leaving. I'm kind of the last man standing and I can't stand it anymore. I've got to go. And I said, okay, well, I'll get you registered and we'll start looking around. But if I were you, don't make any rash decisions, because I strongly suspect he will be going. Because if the directors have seen 3 or 4 really good salespeople leave and you're the last one, they're not going to want to lose you. The problem is him, not everybody else, clearly. And that's exactly what happened. And she then became the boss, and she's now one of my best clients. So
amazing.
So long term, that's what I've always thought. Short-term gains, but irritating people and making people feel like you're disingenuous, and it's not a good look. And that's what I think a lot of recruiters do, because they're under the cosh for targets, they're working for other people, and they will push and get really stroppy when people don't take their jobs. And it just leaves a really bad taste in the candidate's mouth, and it doesn't really help you with your client either. So the honesty is, I think, the big difference. The candidate approach is a massive difference. It's all about is that going to stick? Is that person going to join and still be there in 6 months? And then they're going to phone, 6 years rather, and they're going to phone me up and say, right, find me another John, find me another Hannah. That's what I want. You know exactly what I want. And we don't have masses of clients, but we've got a really good core client base that come back to us over and over and over again because they know they can trust us. And it's that simple.
And it's so important. So honesty and being candid, I'm hearing is your.
It's about the candidate. It's about whether that move makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, don't make the move. And a lot of recruiters will say, make the move, you know, because it's all about this. But
Yeah.
it isn't all about that, because that comes anyway if you do a good job. And if you're doing a job that you're passionate about and you're doing it really, really well, the money and the income is almost a side effect, because you're doing a good job and people like you and they trust you and they keep coming back. And that's what I say to candidates. Take the job that you're going to be the most excited about doing, because then it doesn't feel like work. And that's why, you know, I still get up. I have no boss. I'm my boss, but I work really hard. I work long hours. I have the flexibility. So I want to take my Christmas tree down this afternoon. I will be doing that. And it won't be, you know, at 6 o'clock tonight. It'll probably be at 3 o'clock this afternoon. But, you know, I sometimes work till 8 o'clock at night, but it's around my family, and that's what I've loved over the last sort of 10 years or so. It's that flexibility. It's being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. It doesn't mean I work any less hard. I do work hard. This doesn't come easy, but if you're really passionate about it, and if people are setting up businesses, that's the crucial bit. Make sure that you love what you're doing, and then it will be a success, because the hours that you're putting in, you don't mind, because you're loving what you do.
Yeah, you've got to get up and come to work, whether it's your business or not. Now, this leads me brilliantly to my next question, which you've alluded to slightly, with being able to sort of be flexible with taking the Christmas tree down this afternoon. But how do you balance your personal life with running a business?
It's hard sometimes. You've got to be really self-disciplined. And I think sometimes I'm not. Sometimes, you know, with all the best intentions, I'd like to help my son do his homework, and quite often I will go on the school run, because that's the flexibility. So I can pick him up at 4 o'clock every day, have a chat with him as much as you can with a 14-year-old boy on the way home. And then I get home, I'm making something to eat, or I'll put the dinner on, and then I'll jump back into this office and I'm still back onto the computer doing stuff. But then, you know, I'll go out and we'll have another chat, we'll sit and eat together. So it's about the self-discipline. If you keep a diary almost, and have like times where you do certain jobs. I've learned this more recently with a business coach.
Yeah.
If you do certain things at certain times, so I will process all of my applications whilst Archie's eating his breakfast. So that might be at 7:30. I'll sit for half an hour, process all of those applications. Then I'll go up, get a shower, get ready for work, come back down whilst his dad takes him to school. And if you have set times for doing things all the way through the day, and you try and stick to that as a routine, and sometimes it doesn't work, of course, but if you try and do that, then you'll get that balance right. If you get consumed by it, and there will be times where you're really consumed, and last year 2023 I was really overwhelmed with the business because of all the changes, and it was a tough year. But you've got to decide what you're doing it for. And if you're doing it to have more of a work-life balance, then you've got to really be strict with yourself about that diary, and about when you do things and what time you do certain things, and then it will really work well. And actually, taking time out for yourself as well is really important, because I was frazzled last year because I was putting so many hours into the business. It wasn't doing particularly well because of various reasons, and I just kept putting more and more time in. And when I spoke to the business coach, he said, no, you've got to go for a walk, you've got to go to the gym, or go for a swim, or do something so that your brain switches off from it, and then you'll find you go back in refreshed, and you will be better, and you'll produce more and be more effective and more efficient. Absolutely right. Because you panic sometimes, and you just keep putting more and more hours in, but they're not effective.
No,
So
every time you
yeah,
find it.
that's how you do it. And it's doing it and telling you how to do it, two different things, but it is all about discipline.
Yeah, no, that's such an important share. I think a lot of people are going to resonate with that and have a look at their diary to see how it is structured and how much downtime they've got in there.
Yeah,
I think, questioning
yes.
that. What would you say has been your biggest learning whilst running the business?
Um, Probably that.
Yeah.
Um, the bigger picture. Okay, so particularly if you're running every business is all about turnover, and it's about profits,
Mhm.
and looking at, and it's something that you probably don't have the privilege until you've done a few years. But when I get stressed and I feel like this month is really not panning out the way I wanted it to, we're not turning over enough. Oh my God, where am I going to get the turnover from? Where are we going to get the business from? Where's the pipeline? I will look to my right at the turnover because I've got a whiteboard next to me with every single year's figures on it. And I then think, okay, this is a marathon, not a sprint. It's as long as you keep doing what you've always done throughout your entire career, and you know what you're doing because you've done it for 20 odd years, 25 years, it will be fine. It'll
Yeah.
be fine. And it's just taking away that panic, because you can easily panic in a business, particularly like recruitment, because you're back at zero at the beginning of every month. And it's like, where is this coming from? Where's the pipeline? Where are the placements? And some months are going to be amazing. And some months are going to be a real stress. And you feel like nothing's going right and you've got a run of bad luck. But you just have to look at the bigger picture. You look at the last 11 years and what we've done and what we've achieved. And the figures, the turnover figures, it did wildly vary when we had more people working in the business, and it reduced wildly during COVID. But the overall figure, the profit figure, has remained fairly steady. And that's what you've just got to keep telling yourself. You're going to have good months and bad months, but look at the bigger picture and then you'll calm down. And that's probably what I've learned. And I feel a lot calmer after 11 years than the girl that's been working with me for just shy of a year, who panics every month because it's all about, what are we going to do? Where's it going to come from? Be calm. It's fine. Just calm. It'll come. As long as you put the effort in at the front end, you definitely get the results out the other end. And over the course of a year, it's fairly steady, and that's what you want to look at. It's like if that chart, it'll do this month on month, but over the years, it stays fairly steady.
And having it right in front of you. So I love
And
the
I
way
just
that you
look
look then
there.
and you're like, it is there. It's
Just look
calming.
there. And I've also got a picture of my dad behind me. And he was a massive influence on me. He basically said to me right from the year dot, the only way you make any money in the UK is if you work for yourself. And that sort of echoed in my head until I did. And I didn't set the business up till I was in my 40s. So it doesn't have to be now. Actually, going out into industry, working for other people first is quite a good thing to do, because that's where you learn.
Mhm.
And you learn about business. So setting up your own business when you're further on in your career is not a bad thing to do. I mean, in your 20s, if you do it in your 20s, people are more forgiving if you bat around in your 20s, obviously, because most of us do. And it's a bigger risk the older you get, obviously, because it's something that you've got to be really confident about the income side of it. So, but yeah, I'm the picture of my dad. So when I'm having a really bad day, I just look at that and I can hear him in my head saying, just do good work.
Sage advice there from your dad.
Yeah,
Sage
just do good
advice.
work. It's that simple.
Do good work. You mentioned earlier about the bigger picture, and I always like to end on this question, which is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And if you've got any words of advice for other business owners, for the people in recruitment or mums looking to start their business who are looking to grow or start.
Okay, in 5 years, I would ideally like to be stepping away a little bit, and I'm really looking to recruit somebody quite significant at the moment who can do the candidate side, which is most of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I've got somebody that can do the client side brilliantly. She's great, and she's really excited about the opportunity to be running Hunter Hughes. As I'm not going to retire, because I can't see myself ever really retiring, but if I wanted to do part-time, I really need the significant person that can take over from what I do on a day-to-day basis. So if anybody's looking for a job in recruitment, so yeah, that's where I see myself in 5 years. So probably working ideally 3 days a week rather than 5, and doing a bit of painting. My advice is to people looking to start, try and have a cushion behind you financially. Yeah. If you can, because then if it doesn't work, you're not in the mire. But really make sure it's something you're passionate about, something that you love to do. You will make it work because you'll really enjoy doing it, and it's very exciting when you're doing it. And it's all about you. It's the best feeling in the world. That first client that you win, the first payment that you get, you know, even getting the bank to agree to, you know, help you out or whatever. It's all about you. It's really, really exciting times when you set a business up. It's nerve-wracking, obviously, but there's nothing like that feeling of freedom. And if you ask anybody running their own business whether they'd want to go and work for somebody else again, even if they're having a really hard time and they're telling you how difficult it is and how stressful it is, the answer will be no. 100%.
Speak volumes, wouldn't it? That would speak volumes.
I've never ever known anybody, even when they're tearing their hair out with their own business, say that they'd want to go and work for somebody else again. You just wouldn't. No way.
No.
I do the same job that I've done for 25 years, really, and sometimes I think, God, this is quite boring. I've just done the exact same thing for 25 years. And I watch some of my best friend who's worked for some massive corporates, and sometimes I'm a little bit envious because she's had a more varied career than I have, but she probably hasn't had the same freedom.
No, it couldn't.
Yeah, just do it. Do it.
Just do it. No, exactly. What a perfect way to end. Just do it. Andrea, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. If anybody's looking for a job, let's snip that out and put that out and speak to Andrea.
Ring me. I will help you get a sales job.
Exactly. Thank you so much. I can't wait to share this. There's lots of insights that people will relate to. So I'm going to whip off to the editing team and get this out online ASAP. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
Thanks, Andrea. Bye.
Bye-bye.